I played Terraria once when it came out, but honestly the game was too difficult for my 5-year-old peanut brain. So it's safe to say I'm as much of a noob as you can get. Today's goal is simple, beating Terraria for the first time within 100 days. Stick around because we're about to take down the Wall of Flesh, Skeletron Prime, Moon Lord, and much more. As badly as I wanted to do expert mode, let's be honest, I wouldn't survive a day. So yeah, we'll save that for the next video. With all that said, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. I started off day 1 chopping down trees because that's what I would do in Minecraft. I talked to my guide, Trent, for the first time, who seemed pretty useful. Afterwards, I immediately got jumped by a slime. Anyways, after collecting a couple of sunflowers which I have no idea what to do with, I made my first workbench. This gave me access to wooden walls and other materials needed to build a house. I placed a couple of walls, got more wood, and began working on the first floor. Turns out that I can make torches from wood and the gel dropped by slimes. After placing 2 doors on both sides, we officially made our first home. I wasn't sure if this bunny was gonna turn evil at nighttime, so I had to slaughter the poor thing. As the sun went down, I collected some more wood and covered into the building for protection. I might be a noob, but I'm smart enough to know that roaming around at nighttime is not a good idea. Turns out this campfire helps me heal up, so that's pretty cool. I didn't want to waste too much time, so I decided to start work on the second floor instead. After placing the wood, I inserted 2 doors on each side and covered the whole area with walls. I also made a hammer, which helps me remove background objects. Day 2, I placed furniture on both rooms, and look at that, the guy did not die after all. My house was looking a bit odd, so I made another area in the center. Turns out that one of the rooms was a bit too small, so I expanded it. Afterwards, I made my first wood armor and stood peacefully as the guide fought for his life outside. Then I decided to break out from the roof and go explore a little bit. I found a cave nearby that I blocked off to protect myself. There was a chest with a couple of useful items such as lead and healing potions, which I happily commandeered. As I cautiously climbed down the cave, I found my first vein of tungsten as well as a treasure room. I looted the golden chest and chandelier, which I planned to put in my house. Anyways, after getting my head slammed by a boulder, I was just as determined as ever to get back to caving. After looking around the place, I stumbled onto more tungsten and some shiny material. Turns out it was just platinum, which is still good, but it just disappointed me a little. I tried exploring a bit more, but after falling into a small body of water, my toe was bit off and swallowed by a piranha. Day 3, I placed a golden chest and chandelier I found earlier in the house. This old man moved in as well. Turns out he sells pickaxes and potions, which is cool. Using the lead I found in a chest, I made my first anvil and crafted a lead broadsword. I tried searching for a ladder, but turns out this game has none. I had a bunch of ores which I needed to smelt. As a result, I went down into the cave, collected some more stone, and crafted a furnace. Then I noticed that my house didn't have a floor, so I removed the dirt and placed some wood there. As the next day started to approach, I decided to go caving. I made a platform to safely get across this place and put some of the rope I had to good use, as it helped me reach my first proper vein of lead. I was surprised by the amount of ore I got from this one area. This is probably enough for a full set, I think. Day 4, I smelted my first ores of tungsten and lead. Turns out this game is a lot more different compared to Minecraft than I thought. Just 1 ore doesn't equal to 1 bar. Anyways, I made a tungsten bow and got some morning wood. There was another cave entrance right in front, so I decided to explore this one as well. As I lit up the place with torches, effectively blinding the bats living inside, I found a grand total of absolutely nothing. No ores, no treasure, absolutely nothing. As a result, I just started digging out of pure frustration. It's like this game is toying with me. Such a big cave that takes forever to explore with my tiny feet but has nothing good going for it. After digging some more, I found some poop water, which is just spectacular. This might have been the most useless and unproductive day so far. I placed some of my items in the golden chest. By the way, look how majestically these owls are positioned. Anyways, after taking my anger out on them, I decided to light up the area a little bit more so that no more zombies can spawn nearby. As the night started to end, I decided that I was gonna at the very least try to make this day a little more productive. So I started exploring and discovered a desert biome, which was cool. After walking around some more, I found another forest and a giant tree. Underneath it was a bunch of platforms that led to a chest. I got some more lead bars and some sort of magic wand or whatever. I probably won't ever use them. On day 5, I decided to explore the cave beneath the tree a bit more. I proceeded downwards and just started digging all around the place. This is where I found my first crystal heart. Turns out that this game supports cannibalism, which is cool. Anyways, in Minecraft, I always just dig straight down until I find a new cave, so I thought maybe it will work in Terraria as well. Well, it didn't. I fell into a pool of water and my character cannot swim. What's up with this game? Why does my character never go up when I hold space underwater? Anyways, after trying to make another hole and almost drowning again, I just gave up. Just kidding, I started digging again elsewhere when I finally found a new cave. There was some tungsten which I collected before proceeding to stroll around the place and finding even more ores. I almost fell down here but fortunately realized that it was a ledge and built a stairway down. I found my second treasure room but this one was filled to the brim with slimes. Unfortunately, my adventure didn't last long as I was poisoned by some flying worm before I could even think about dealing with all the slime. After respawning, I used the items I had to make some arrows and a hook. According to the internet, I should have made that way before I started exploring in any caves, but oh well. Since it was too dangerous to be outside at this time of night, I decided to expand my house for more NPCs. I'm not going to overcomplicate my house's design, but I don't want it to look too flat either, so it'll just exponentially get longer with each new floor. This one specifically will have 4 rooms as opposed to the previous one, which had 2. Day 6, I fill in the rooms with walls, deforest the area some more, and jump into a hole to explore the cave I just died in. And oh yeah, I made a lead chestplate at some point as well. This hook is so useful. I don't have to build to get to high places anymore, it just takes me there. I should have made it a long time ago. Finally, it was time to explore the treasure room that barely escaped me yesterday. This time there were no slimes, which was honestly disappointing. I was pretty hyped for a big battle. I haven't had one in this world so far. The chest had really good healing potions and bunch of other stuff not worth mentioning. Anyways, I returned home where I lit up the place and put down furniture in the rooms to make it more suitable for NPCs. On day 7 I explored the map a little bit more. I also found the ice biome or whatever they call it. Afterwards we go caving again and find another crystal heart. I'll need a lot more of these if I want to survive. There's a big vein of lead next to the treasure room that I missed earlier. Anyways, I continued exploring and collected a bunch of useful ores before getting my back blown out by some zombie miner. Don't worry, I'm a miner as well. Anyways, this bearded guy and a nurse moved in. Turns out the bearded guy is actually a demolitionist, or however you pronounce it, meaning that he sells bombs. Anyways, I make a better helmet and set out to explore again. After climbing up this massive hill, I notice a massive roll of toilet paper. I have no idea what that is. I try to advance forward, but I'm quickly swarmed by an army of zombies. It was too dark for me to see anything, so I just decided to run instead. I tried exploring this new biome, but the zombies were too much for me to handle, so I decided to retreat instead. At this point, I'm getting more and more confident with my abilities. I mean, look, I went back to a cave and these slimes didn't even stand a chance. Day 8, I found a crystal heart. I won't bore you with too much caving, so we'll just speed through a lot of it from now on. I got some platinum, stumbled onto this weird zombie that tried to trade with me, and found a new biome that glows blue. There's a chest with a bunch of cool stuff as well, including this outfit that I put on. After organizing my items in a chest, I bought some healing potions from the old man. According to the internet, he's called the merchant, but I'ma refer to him by his old age anyways. As I began my exploration of this world, I cut down a couple of trees and made my way to what I now know is called the jungle. It looks more like a swamp to me, but I'm stupid, so whatever. These guys weren't a big fan of me insulting their habitat, so I was forced to shut myself in a cave for safety. Anyways, after some more exploring, I encounter another huge tree, underneath which I find some useful potions. There was nothing else there, so I continued on my journey. I found a beach with palm trees and a river. I walked across the bottom of the river hoping that it would end at some point, but it turned out to be an ocean with nothing more beyond it. Yeah, so I drowned to death. Day 9 I was introduced to this woman. Turns out she's a furry and likes to pretend to be a fox. Anyways, using some of the sapphire that I got off camera, I made this sapphire hook as well. It is quite useful. Then I went caving, found some emeralds, lead, tungsten, ruby, was almost killed by this weird rat that throws fireballs, and entered what I think is called hell for the first time. At last, I had enough platinum to make a new chestplate and greaves. Day 10, I was greeted by my first traveling merchant. He didn't have anything I found useful. After quite a while of caving, I found this dude just playing golf in the middle of a freaking cave filled with monsters that want to kill him. The balls on this guy. Anyways, I found a ton of platinum in this desert cave and ran into a weird blue ore that my pickaxe wasn't good enough to mine. Across a small treasure room, there's another crystal heart that I ate. Anyways, after getting some more platinum, I ran into this huge area with a bunch of sapphire. I thought gems were pretty rare, but I'm literally finding them every 2 seconds. When I respawned back home, I noticed that the call for moved in. The items he sold was pretty useless. Day 11, I got tired of mining, so I just started bombing the poop out of a desert biome in order to find more ores. And oh yeah, I got this weird looking sword from somewhere as well. I have no idea how my character picked it up, but god is it useful. It's called the Bat and does like 50 damage, which is crazy for someone at this stage of the game. Anyways, after dying again to a freaking cactus, I got so frustrated that I started googling ways to find platinum faster. Turns out that this whole time, I could have just made a Splunker potion, which reveals the ores around me. This means that I wasted maybe hours of my time just digging around for platinum when I could have just drank a potion. Anyways, Splunker potions require Blinkroot, Moonglow, platinum ores, glass bottles, and water bottles, so I got to work gathering them. Most of those things were pretty easy to procure. I made glass from sand and bottles from glass. I had some platinum ore and Blinkroot left over in my inventory from the caves. This left Moonglow, which was much more difficult to find. I went over all the way to the right side of the map to find a new cave where Moonglows grow, but ended up discovering the corruption for the first time. Day 12, I set out to find Moonglow. I scoured every inch of the jungle biome from the trees to the mud to find what I needed for over 20 minutes. Anyways, I refused to give up and looked through the caves instead. And voila, I found Moonglow almost instantly. If only I knew it was that easy. On day 13, I returned home, collected some clay to make clay pots, found some more platinum ore for potions as well as tools, built a basement and started work on my blink root and Moonglow farm. As the sun rose and we slipped into day 14, I placed some wood, 2 doors and tidied up the basement. My stupid brain forgot to get Moonglow seeds and as a result we had to go back in the jungle for them. Eventually I made pots and started growing the Moonglow in them. Anyways, while mining I ran into my first glowing mosquito and it led me to another crystal, which is cool. I have no idea if the mosquito was trying to help me out or if it just helped me out by accident. Regardless, I appreciate him for not giving me dingo. Beneath a mushroom biome, I ran into this large area filled with emeralds. What do you even do with emeralds in this game? I mean, the villagers don't accept it as payment, so I have no idea. Using the materials I had gathered earlier, I made a boatload of splunker potions and used it to get a boatload of platinum. I really should have made these potions earlier. It makes everything so much less time consuming. I bet like 70% of my playtime so far is just me mining endlessly just to find little to no platinum. As I was deciding on what to make using all the platinum I gathered, the Eye of Cthulhu spawned. Anyways, I tried to be a hero and I'm proud to say I actually did something right for once. It wasn't easy to fight this guy, but with the help of the Bat and my trusted bow, I was able to get a good amount of damage done. I mean, I had no idea how to dodge his attack, but I didn't need to as the mushroom hand gave me plus 500 confidence points, which I used to obliterate the Eye of Cthulhu. Someone please let me know how to pronounce his name in the comments. Day 15, I placed a whole bunch of pots underground and got some more morning wood. Anyways, using the wood, I started work on another floor for some more NPCs. Do I really have to start paying rent at some point? I can't keep doing all this work for free. Anyways, after setting up the background walls and platforms, I moved the chandelier and made a room as well before replacing the dirt floor of the basement with wood. And oh yeah, I used the emerald from earlier to make this cool stuff. It's honestly a bit too magical for my taste. Day 16, I got a whole lot more wood. And oh yeah, this green lady moved in as well. I have no practical use for her, but she's pretty, so that's okay. In order to spawn the Eater of Worlds, which is a worm-like monster that I learned about from the wiki, I need to collect rotten chunk from the corruption biome, so I headed there immediately. The staff I made earlier comes in handy as I use it to destroy the flying cockroaches coming towards me. While looking around the place, I find this weird old man standing in front of some dungeon. Anyways, after farming these fools for rotten chunk, I continue on my journey east. I discover another desert and forest before mistaking an ocean for a river again and almost running to death a second time. Why did God make me so dumb? After doing some extensive research, I found out that the old man actually summoned Skeletron, which is basically a giant skull that you have to battle. I got a little bit too confident and decided to just summon the boss without any real preparation. Needless to say, I regretted doing so instantly. The dude does way too much damage. I ran around all over the place and tried using my staff to beat him but didn't stand a chance. As a result, I was forced to retreat back to my base, which led to the boss despawning. After looking through the wiki a bit more, I found out that I wasted my time again by trying to farm rotten chunks. You can spawn the Eater of Worlds much easier by just destroying 3 of these balls. So I hid to a corruption cave where I realized that my pickaxe is not good enough to break anything over here. Day 17, I watched a YouTube video and figured out that I can use bombs instead to get the balls. So I buy some from the demolition and head to the corruption biome again. I slowly but surely make my way through all the blocks over 3 times and break all the balls that I need to. Anyways, the monster spawns and god does this guy look scary. I mean, look at him, he has like 500 eyes. I did struggle a little bit fighting the worm and took a ton of damage, but at the end of the day, my bad did not let me down. Turns out this guy drops an ore called Demonite, which can be used to make good armor and tools. And oh yeah, by the way, I picked up this helmet from outside the dungeon. Anyways, after scrolling the wiki a little bit more, I decided it was time to take on a real challenge. The queen bee. So I walked to the jungle, which is where they spawn, and just repeatedly bomb it until I find a beehive. I also had to dig quite a little bit when I ran out of explosives. As soon as I was finally able to make my way inside a large cave, this bee saw me coming from a mile away and sniped my head off with a stinger. Day 18, on my way back to find the queen bee, I ran into this weird meteorite area. I have no idea what it's used for, so it was just ignored. I entered the same cave and found this honey dispenser in a chest. I didn't know what it did, but kept it with me just in case. After looking around some more, I found this pool of honey, which if I'm not wrong is an indicator that there's a hive nearby. Unfortunately, I didn't last long as this slime decided to poison me out of existence. After harvesting and replanting some more moonglow, I was finally able to find the edge of a hive. As soon as I broke a little piece, a whole ocean of honey started being poured on me. At the time, I had no idea that this game required arenas in order to defeat bosses, so my stupid self just began the fight immediately with no preparation whatsoever. I did kind of put up a fight, but at the end of the day, I had my buttocks handed to me. Day 19 started with a goblin goblin invasion, which caught me very much by surprise. I had no idea that goblins existed. I mean, just look at these guys, they look like clowns. Turns out I'm an even bigger clown. My stupid self could only take a small amount of damage before being completely bombarded by them. Even my bad pet wasn't strong enough against the sheer number of goblins that came after the house. This might be the most stressful part of this game so far, because no matter how many I kill, more of them just keep spawning. Anyways, I surprisingly was able to deal with the threat without dying too many times, which helped me repair my fragile ego after it took such a massive hit due to the Queen Bee fight. Which reminds me, I have to take revenge. I was honestly expecting the Queen Bee to stay in the same place, forgetting that bosses despawn after you die. Anyways, I dug around looking for another hive, found another crystal heart, showed a couple of killer bees who's boss, and stumbled onto what I was looking for. Unfortunately, the bee annihilated me with his stingers, and to be frank, I did not stand a chance in the first place, especially not with such little preparation. Day 20, I decided to just give up on the bee. I mean, it's not even a mandatory boss, and I've already wasted enough time doing nothing, so don't blame me. Anyways, while trying to drain out some lava for healthstone, I was ambushed by this demon who kept shooting rings at me. While I was AFK, this lava started pouring out and I died. At the end, I decided that I actually needed a elevator because it takes too long for me to get all the way down there through cave systems. So I dug a hole, got a bunch of bombs, and just got to work. It wasn't a straight hole by any means, as I needed to maneuver around various pools of water or caves and had no idea how to use bombs, but it definitely made the trip a lot faster. And oh yeah, I used a demonite I collected from defeating the giant worm monster to make a shadow pickaxe, which is pretty useful. Anyways, using my admittedly terrible elevator, I collected many hellfires from day 21 to day 22. This might be the most frustrating experience ever. I mean, I was being bombarded by enemies from all over the place, and the hellfire ores were pretty common, but god were they hard to reach. Like, it was impossible to get to most of them without being burned to a crisp by lava. Day 23, I found out that to make molten armor I also need obsidian, so I made this obsidian farm which I learned about from YouTube. What you basically do is just place a little bit of lava and pick it up before it turns into obsidian. This way you can place the same lava bucket as many times as you want in order to get infinite obsidian. While gathering the materials I needed, I experienced my first blood boon. My first thought was that I was going to be bombarded with blood-sucking vampires, but fortunately it wasn't that bad. There was just way more zombies and weird flying red things than usual. Day 24, I collected the final pieces of obsidian, made a molten helmet, chest plate, and collected even more hellstone as well as obsidian because my math skills are awful. This day was probably the worst out of all the ones so far because it is when I found out that meteorite armor was actually a lot better than molten armor. My stupid self this whole time just assumed that molten armor was the best because of its higher defense, but turns out that there are other factors that I didn't think of. This made me hate myself. I spent so much time making molten armor just to immediately replace it with meteorite. Anyways, I farmed a meteorite, which is super easy by the way. These weird asteroids or whatever kept annoying me, but they weren't too difficult to deal with. I made meteorite armor and a space gun, which is like the coolest looking weapon so far. Anyways, apparently this set is like super good against Skeletron, so I went to work making an arena and placed a bunch of wood blocks around the dungeon. Day 25, I continued work on the arena by putting a bunch of platforms everywhere. This will help me dodge Skeletron's attacks. And oh yeah, I also placed a whole bunch of campfires all around the place for faster health regen. As I was about to start the fight, I realized that I needed a quick way to get back to the arena, so I tried building a stone stairway. These freaking cockroaches were annoying me, and as a result, I covered the arena up with wood in order to avoid them knocking me off during the actual boss fight. By the time I did all that, the sun started to rise and it was day 26 already, so I guess y'all will have to wait a little bit more to see me fight Skeletron. Most of this day was just spent waiting for the sun to go down so I can spawn the boss. Eventually it was time. I talked to the old man and brought Skeletron to life. Unfortunately, the audio for whatever reason stopped working properly, so I'm sorry about that. The fight for the most part wasn't too difficult. I mostly just hopped about and ran around from platform to platform trying my best to dodge his attacks and shoot him from a distance. The boy did not stand a chance. Apparently beating this guy unlocks the dungeon. I tried going inside but got impaled by some spikes almost instantly. I don't think I showed you guys this, but I also made a decent bit of progress with my Blinkroot and Moonglow farm as well, which is going to be super useful in the future to make Splunker portions. Day 27, I decided to get my items in order by making and placing a bunch of chests on the top floor. The first chest will just have a bunch of random stuff. The second will store bars and ores, whereas the third one will have materials I need to make Splunker portions. And oh yeah, Ralph the Painter also moved in. Day 28, I tried to work proactively by stopping the spread of corruption before it starts. According to what I've read online, beating the wall of flesh leads to evil spreading. Therefore, it is best to take a 4-block hole pre-hard mode in order to stop corruption from taking over everything. To accomplish this, I bought a bunch of dynamite and just started blowing stuff up again and again. This gap should be big enough for corruption to stay away, I think. Day 29, I find out that the corruption has thorns that require blocks to stop their spread. Therefore, I made a whole bunch of stone slabs which are incorruptible blocks and lined them right down the hole. This should be enough to make my world spread proof. Later on, I go to the dungeon just to see what's going on down there. Who is the architect of this place? They could have at least implemented a stairway. The purple color is hideous as well. In order to make this easier on me, I broke down many of the spikes before going deeper into the abyss, where I ran into this weird lizard guy who kept spitting blue stuff at me. I also got an alchemy table from this place. There's a goblin that I ran into, as well as a mechanic. While looting a chest, I found this suspicious looking eye, which is a summoning item for the Eye of Cthulhu. As I was sorting through my inventory, this wizard zombie just wiped me out clean. Day 30, I started making another elevator in order to keep the more easterly side of the map safe from evil. This was quite a tedious task, and at the end I was just so sick and tired of bombing and mining that I just completely forgot to line the place up with stone slabs. Hopefully that doesn't come back to bite me in the future. The next day I inserted many of the items I was carrying into the appropriate chests and used my elevator to start preparing for the wall of flesh. I grabbed my stone blocks and just started building a large horizontal platform, which will make the battle much more bearable. I'm gonna skip through most of this process because it is excruciatingly boring on camera, but at the same time super soothing when you're doing it yourself. Anyways, after building the platform, it was time to summon the boss. According to the wiki, you need to throw voodoo dolls, which are collected from certain demons, into the lava for the wall of flesh to spawn. Therefore, I did just that. And yeah, it turns out I wasn't as good at researching this game as I thought. My space gun was not remotely good enough, and I accidentally spawned him on the left side of the screen when I wanted him to come from the right. I tried my best, but at the end, my stupidity made the fight impossible to win. After respawning, I went back to hell and made the platform like a lot bigger just to make sure. On day 32, the goblin and mechanic finally moved in, and I was also greeted by a traveling merchant as well as Annabelle, who I think is a hairstylist. These NPCs keep getting more and more useless by the day. I also extended this area with more wood and walls in order to make room for more villagers. Even after doing all this, the guide still wasn't spawning, which was just so frustrating. When the guide finally respawned the next day, I immediately went down to hell and threw his voodoo into the lava. No wonder he doesn't want to respawn. Anyways, this time I did a lot better because of the extra space that I had to fall back on. I did pretty good all things considered. Almost killed the dude as well until my character ran out of platform and the wall of flesh just shoot me into his stomach. I immediately got back to work afterwards by extending the platform even more than before. And I forgot to set up campfires last time, so I'm putting them down right now. As soon as the guide respawned, I sent him to his death a third time. After running around for a little bit, I almost killed the monster but ran out of space yet again. Why is this boss so freaking hard? Oh, and by the way, I also bought these rocket boots from the Goblin Tinkerer. These things make traveling so much easier. Day 34, I started looking around the dungeon for golden chests, which have a chance to give me a shadow key. Shadow keys are essentially reusable keys that will allow me to open all shadow chests, which are found in hell. I need this key because from these shadow chests, I can retrieve the Hellwing bow, which according to the internet is the best weapon against the wall of flesh. I explored the dungeon and looked all around the place before being chased on by this weird black hole. Anyways, it didn't take long for me to find what I was looking for. After going back to hell and opening my first chest, I got this awesome spear. I mean, just look at the reach of this thing. It's way better than the Bat. I had to open like maybe 3 more of these until I finally found the Hellwing bow, and it was time to actually defeat the wall of flesh for real. After killing the guide for the 4th time, I just started spraying the wall of flesh with arrows. With this bow, I shoot multiple arrows at a time and they explode on impact as well, doing additional damage. It definitely wasn't an easy fight. I took a lot of hits, but at the end proved victorious. It is finally time for hard mode, which is when harder monsters start spawning and corruption spreads much more rapidly. Turns out that the giant hole I spent forever making doesn't freaking work. The corruption is still spreading. Honestly, I was really contemplating just giving up on this world because that's how paranoid I was about the spread. Eventually, after thinking about the situation, I felt super stupid. It was never as big of a deal as my peanut brain made it out to be. I can just dig a proper hole around my base and that will suffice. So I start digging. I make a 6-block hole and start working on a tunnel to the other side. Day 35 to 38, I decide to use some bombs to speed up the process. This tunnel is gonna go all the way to the other side of my house to stop corruption from affecting it. Once I got to the edge, I teleported up and started bombing the place again before connecting the hole to the tunnel. After making the edges look nicer, I make a whole bunch of stone slabs and just line everything up. By the way, look how useful this weapon is. The slimes don't even stand a chance. Now it's time to block Halo from spreading. This time the hole is gonna be straight and perfect. I'm not gonna take any chances whatsoever. I painfully bomb and dig all the way to hell while placing blocks to make sure it is a perfectly straight hole with a 6-block gap. This hole probably took like 2 hours, I think, more or less. Day 39, I realized after some googling that all this time that I have wasted just walking on foot everywhere I could have just saved by creating pylons across the world. My stupid self had no idea what pylons were before, so I head to the jungle to try and set one of them up right away. I wanted to be at the very end of the jungle so that I can reach a wider range of the map. Unfortunately, hard mode enemies such as the beetles and especially these turtles became so powerful that I did not stand a chance. I probably died maybe a few dozen times trying to get across this godforsaken biome. Day 40 I decided to farm some more hellstone in order to make a better pickaxe and hammer. This takes a while as I kept dying. Eventually I pick up a potion that makes me immune to lava damage and makes the process way faster. Turns out the molten pickaxe is not even that much better than the nightmare one, so yeah, I wasted my time again. Anyways, I gather some lead, cobwebs, and use a loom to make my first bed. Day 41 I get back to setting up the jungle pylon. I died the first few times but eventually managed to start building a house. The first floor is going to be pretty long in order to house 2 NPCs, which is what I need for the pylon to work properly. I placed 2 doors on both sides and 1 in the middle, before putting down furniture in both rooms. Anyways, I decided to move the dryad and painter here because they both like this biome and I don't need them in the main house anyways. After they move in, I buy a pylon from the dryad and set it up on top of the building. Day 42 I try making a house here but it is too close to corruption, so I break that down and make it here instead. The golfer and zoologist will stay in this place. Anyways, a blood moon starts and this staff really comes in handy. I think I got it from some dungeon and it's literally the best weapon in the world. I love not having to worry about aiming or just anything really and just lazily clicking my mouse away as the stars do all the heavy lifting for me. The next day I decide to actually start making progress. Turns out the first thing I need to do in hard mode is break about 6 altars in the corruption biome for enough new ores to spawn. In order to do this, I need a hammer that exclusively drops from the wall of flesh. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I actually did pick up this hammer a few days ago and put it into one of the chests. However, my stupid self completely forgot that and just assumed that I never picked it up in the first place. Yeah, and I'm super freaking dumb. Anyways, I spent like forever trying to find a demon with a voodoo doll just so I can kill the wall of flesh again for a hammer that I already have. I go to the corruption biome and break 6 altars using the pawn hammer or whatever. Breaking each altar spawns in new ores that I need and speeds up the spread. This is why breaking 6 of them is ideal. There are enough new ores and the spread isn't too bad. See, I told you guys I would get better. Anyways, after making some splunker potions, I set out to find the new ores. I experienced my first pirate invasion on this day as well. Honestly, it went terrible. The NPCs have like way too much health and it takes like a decade to kill just 10 of them. The magic missile stuff is a lifesaver at this point. Without it, it would take me an eternity to beat these guys. I think I got it from the dungeon or something, I don't remember. I probably crafted it actually. I died a few dozen times and turned my house into a graveyard, but at the end managed to win. Day 44 to 48, I needed to make a palem pickaxe in order to break ores, and using I made a hard mode anvil and pickaxe to collect titanium, which is the best ore to make armor and tools with at this stage of the game. After spending way too long collecting titanium, I made a titanium furnace and used it as well as the anvil to smelt and craft the titanium tools and armor I wanted. Day 49, I decided that I wanted a pylon set up right next to my best elevator. In order to do this, I took a couple of halo blocks and spread it to this desert. While waiting for it to spread, I went into the new halo cave system in order to collect a couple of souls of light. I honestly became a tiny bit arrogant and thought that I could beat the twins without a proper arena, so I tried it, and yeah, I ran around but didn't even get close to beating them. So whatever, I collected a bunch of wood and started work on a huge platform. Day 50, I realized how badly I deforested my area, so I had to go to the jungle and destroy nature over there instead. I kept on building until noticing a flying island above me. This caught me off guard because I had no idea there's something up here. The loot inside was honestly pretty useless, which was a bummer. I was hoping for some wings or something. As I continued work on my platform, somehow the twins spawned on their own. I tried handling them but just wasn't ready and got destroyed. Anyways, I lit the platform up and placed campfires everywhere for extra health regen. Day 51 started with yet another pirate invasion. At this point, I already used the magic missile to craft Sky Fracture, a weapon that I'm told is very effective against the twins. While expanding the platform again, I ran into another floating island. I was really hoping for something cool like a cool wing or a cool weapon, but like the loot was just alright, I guess. Eventually I got tired of collecting wood, so when I respawned, the platform was expanded using stone instead. While hoping to stumble upon another floating island, the destroyer randomly spawned right in front of me. This is basically the hard mode version of the Eater of Worlds. I wasn't really prepared at all, so he got me quite easily. Anyways, I gradually got pretty bored, so to make the game a bit more fun, I decided to go back to the jungle and wreak havoc on our old friend, the Queen Bee. I knew that I progressed quite a lot since the last time we met, but to be frank, I really didn't expect the fight to be this easy. I mean, in my head, this bee was like the hardest fight ever. Anyways, the real reason I beat the Queen Bee is because of the witch doctor who sells leaf wings. After making another room in the jungle, I waited for the doctor to move in. Day 53, I realized that for whatever reason, the doctor was just not telling me what I wanted. At first, I thought he wasn't happy to live with 2 other people, but later I found out that my poor research skills made me waste my time again for the gazillionth time. The witch doctor used to sell leaf wings, but not anymore. There's a freaking update that made it post Plantera. So yeah, I'm stupid. After collecting 6 souls of light, I made another mechanical eye. This time I have a huge platform, so that makes the fight a lot easier. I place a couple of lanterns for faster mana regeneration and spawn in the boss. The whole thing went like really terribly. They were both spitting lasers and sludge at me, and I didn't even manage to damage a quarter of their health before going out of existence. At this point I realized that I was being lied to. The Sky Factor is not only terrible at literally everything, but it's not even good against a twin, which is the whole reason I sacrificed my favorite weapon. Anyways, I decided to give up on the twins and use my platform against the destroyer instead. I barely did like 500 damage before losing again. Why is this game so hard? Day 54, I continue working on the Halo pylon that I completely forgot about before. I used rich mahogany wood collected from the jungle biome to make a small house with 2 rooms. This time I also decided to make the second floor more vertically longer, just so it's a bit different than all the other pylons, you know. I also moved the Tavern Keeper and Demolition in there because they both like each other and the Halo. I spent most of day 55 to 58 collecting Souls of Light. I want to defeat the Destroyer first, and for that I need the Dateless Stormbow, a weapon that drops from the Haloed Mimic, which can only be spawned by putting a Key of Light made using 15 Souls of Light inside a chest. Its Mimic only has a small chance of dropping the bow that I want, so I had to repeat this process like way too many times to count. I even died a couple of times because this little bugger was way too hard to defeat. And oh yeah, I got this little flying knife from one of the mimics as well. It might be one of the most useful weapons ever. Like, I don't even have to be near enemies anymore to do like 50 damage every other second. It's crazy. Anyways, at the end I figured that using the platforms is the best way to farm mimics and finally managed to obtain what I want. Day 59 to 63, I collected some more titanium for a pickaxe. According to my research, the Dateless Stormbow pairs best with holy arrows, which are made using pixie dust and unicorn horns. Both unicorns and pixies are found in a Halo, so I just camped there for a very long time until I got what I needed. While waiting for nighttime in my bed, I was rudely interrupted by the twins. These guys clearly were in desperate need of some discipline. Anyways, after dying to them and all of my NPCs taking a lot of damage, I went back to work. Day 64, I built up just below space because apparently the destroyer can't inflict melee damage when you're all the way up there. Using a mechanical worm, I spawned in the destroyer during nighttime. As you can see, I stood underneath the stone for the most part in order to avoid the lasers while raining hellfire through the platform. This is a very effective way of defeating the destroyer, with the only downside being these little probes that defy the laws of physics by just flashing through solid blocks. Anyways, I eventually got the monster down to half health before almost getting killed myself. At the end, the destroyer was finally destroyed. How ironic. Day 65, I made a house in the desert, moved the Die Trader and mechanic in there, bought a desert pylon from the Cavern Keeper and placed it on top. Afterwards, the Steampunk, who only spawns after we defeat one of the 3 mechanical bosses, the others being Skeletron Prime and the twins, moved in with us. If you didn't know, we have to beat all 3 mechanical bosses in order for Plantera to spawn, who is a crucial step in progression through the game. Day 66, I made a platform above this ocean and sat on top of it and at the bottom. In order to defeat Skeletron Prime, I need to convert the mini shark, which I bought from the arms dealer, into a mega shark. To do so, I require 5 shark fins, and as a result, I'm waiting for them to spawn. After defeating at least 1 shark, it seems like Skeletron Prime was somehow made aware of my plans to obliterate him and spawn to take me out before I got too far. Without a proper arena and because he cornered me into the ground, I died almost as fast as the boss showed up. Nonetheless, after collecting the 5 shark fins I needed, I created the mega shark. I buy 1,000 or more musket balls from the arms dealer and later seek out these enemies because they drop an item called Cursed Flames. These can be used to transform normal musket balls into I-core bullets, which according to a YouTuber I'm watching is the best kind of bullets to use against the Skeletron. The following day I crafted those bullets and farmed a couple of pixies to use their drops along with items I collected from the destroyer to make fairy wings. Anyways, after collecting some more souls of light and using bones that I acquired from the dungeon, I made a mechanical skull. After placing campfires around the arena, I waited for nighttime in my bed before spawning the boss in for the first time. We danced around quite a bit. I was trying my best to dodge his attacks, but dude was simply too fast and unpredictable. The mega shark was definitely useful, but my skills were so bad that I barely made a scratch on Skeletron Prime's health bar. Day 68 was mostly spent sleeping because I had already decided that I was going to fight Skeletron Prime in the same arena I prepared for his predecessor. Needless to say, this guy was too big and too fast for such a small area. I literally did not stand even the slightest chance. That was a stupid idea. In order to get more gold, I spawned in and killed the Eye of Cthulhu once, twice and thrice. This monster drops gold as well as Demonite ore, so I can smelt and sell for more coins to throw at the goblin scammer. Day 69, I beat the wall of flesh again for the loot and gold so that I can reforge my weapon even more. The goblin scammed us again. Afterwards, I moved my lantern of hearts to the new arena and built another small platform above for more flexibility. As it turned nighttime, I spawned in Skeletron Prime. We jumped across the platforms for quite a while and I tried my best to shoot him from a distance. This time my movement was much cleaner as I had quite a lot of practice. I ran from place to place and used my wings to dodge. The Sapphire hook also came in handy as it allowed me to quickly get away at a moment's notice. The Mega Shark was also definitely the right choice. I love how rapidly it shoots, you know. Unfortunately, despite my improvements, I ended up falling into my house and dying before getting a lot of my NPCs damaged as well. Yeah, I didn't do as well as you probably thought I would. Day 71, I create another platform for even more flexibility. The best way in my experience to dodge Skeletron Prime's attacks is to shoot, fly, and grapple away, which is why this might actually help. Anyways, I spawned in a boss at nighttime and used my wings as well as hook to hop from platform to dodge Skeletron's attacks. It also helped to run to the right side of the map whenever the fight became overwhelming. This time I was more careful and had a better idea of when to run as well as when to fight. By the way, never go to space in this fight. It slows down gravity and is just terrible for your movement. Over time, I noticed that I was dodging almost all the attacks proficiently and that the Mega Shark was doing more damage than I was taking. After taking the dude's health down halfway, he was left armless with only his head remaining. Eventually, I ran out of bullets, which made me panic a little bit, but I regained my composure and started using the Sky Fracture instead. At this point, you guys are probably thinking that I'm about to win this fight. If you think that, you must have underestimated how freaking stupid I am. My dumb self took way too long by trying to fight him from a distance, and as a result, it turned daytime, and at daytime, the Skeletron Prime kills you no matter how much health you have left or how good your armor is. I hate my life. Day 72, I moved the Goblin Tinkerer here so that he gives me better prices. Afterwards, I go to the Corruption with my trusty knife in order to collect Souls of Night, which is another item required for the Mechanical Skull. This wasn't mentioned earlier because I had unknowingly collected them beforehand, and as a result, I didn't have to seek them out. Day 73, I spawned in Skeletron Prime again and accidentally teleported into my house before swiftly getting out. Anyways, I won't bore you with all the details. I zoomed left, right, up, down, and shot the monster until he no longer existed. I got a bunch of hallowed bars, gold, and greater healing potions as drops, which are pretty useful. I teleported to the Goblin Tinkerer and reforged my weapon a couple of times. The dude scammed me again. Day 74 to 78, I just grinded pre-hardmode bosses and ores and sold my items for gold just so I can throw it at the goblin for the slightest hope that he'll take pity on me and grant the modifier I desire. Even after the hundreds of gold coins I threw at this guy, he kept scamming me and I just couldn't get the reforge I wanted. I tried to be a genius and make a squid farm for gold, but apparently they no longer drop the necklace that I need in order to earn coins. At the end, I gave up and settled for some mediocre modifier on my Mega Shark. Day 17, using the items that I already had such as lenses, lead, and souls of light, I crafted a mechanical eye and spawned in the twins. My strategy was simple, just run and shoot with the Mega Shark. I didn't need to prepare much because I already had the arena set up and the Mega Shark is very effective against all sorts of bosses. I need to defeat each twin separately, therefore I decided to focus on the green one first because he seems to be the most eager to kill me. My first try was better than usual, but as soon as this guy ended up with low health, he pulled out his freaking teeth and started bum rushing me. Yeah, I didn't stand a chance. Day 80 to 87, I spawned in the twins like a lot of time, but just kept dying over and over and over again. I also blew up these sky islands while trying to expand my arena because they just kept getting in the way. Eventually, I realized that shooting the green twin actually makes this battle like 10 times freaking easier. All of my attempts, except of the first one, are shooting the red twin because that's what one of the YouTube tutorials I watched told me to do. The video is probably outdated, but I'm gonna blame that YouTuber anyways because it makes me feel better, you know? After discovering this new information, I spawned in the twins once again. Due to the increased experience I have with these fools, combined with my expanded platform and knowledge, I was able to do much better this time. I ran across the platform for quite a while until this guy brought out his teeth. Eventually, I killed my first twin. The red one was much easier to deal with. Although he kept dashing towards me, I eventually brought his health down, resulting in the dude transforming into a giant laser. At this point, the fight became pretty easy, I guess. And I was finally able to defeat the twins. God, that took way too freaking long. Day 88, I realized that in order to attain the next tier of armor and tools, which are made using chlorophyll ore, I need the pickaxe axe. In order to craft this specific pickaxe, every player requires a soul of fright, a soul of might, and a soul of sight. If you didn't know, each one of these are dropped from separate mechanical bosses. However, there's a big problem. My stupid freaking brain forgot to pick up the soul of sight from the twins and it despawned. Frick my life. Anyways, I beat the twins again and got what I needed. I hated every ounce of my being afterwards, but the fight wasn't too difficult this time because I knew what I was doing. Day 89, I made a pickaxe and went into the jungle, which is the only place you can find Crocophyte ores. Surprisingly, they weren't as rare as I thought, as I was easily able to collect a whole heap of them using Splunker potions. Later on, I made my first set of Chlorophyte armor. It even provided me with a cool crystal that automatically shoots enemies nearby. It's super useful, especially against those pesky bats and bees who refuse to leave me alone. Now that all the mechanical bosses have been defeated, it is finally time to deal with Plantera. Following a tutorial I found online, I made a huge hole in the jungle around one of Plantera's bulbs. Afterwards, I made 2 little houses and placed teleporters inside each one that are connected by wires. First, the bulb had to be destroyed for the boss to spawn. Afterwards, I sat in my safe corner, shot the monster, and just teleported away whenever he got too close. This wasn't entirely safe, as he could still hit me with his stingers and arm, but it was pretty strong regardless. I initially thought Plantera was gonna be a big bad monster, but it was actually way easier to kill her than any other boss that I've been put up against so far. And oh yeah, she dropped the key, which if my googling is right, leads to a new dungeon that spawns in the jungle. Day 90, I entered this temple, which I randomly stumbled upon a long time ago while looking for hives. Honestly, I still have no idea what the purpose of this place is, but I guess we're going to find out. There are spikes and traps literally everywhere, along with a bunch of weird lizard-looking people. I died a bunch of times, but eventually made it to this part of the temple, where a whole gang of these lizard people were having lunch, I guess. They tried to attack me, but just got massacred instead. It felt a lot like a weird version of the Red Wedding from Game of Thrones. Anyways, after slowly making my way through this place, I fell into this huge room filled with loot, traps, and paintings. While sniffing around for valuables, I accidentally clicked on this altar, which to my surprise spawned a giant golem. I can't believe I got jump scared by freaking Terraria, out of all the games to get jump scared by. Anyways, I flew around the place hoping to dodge the golem's attacks and even managed to inflict a measly 500 damage before dying. In order to get the best armor available, I need to buy a crafting furniture from the truffle, who only moves in after the player creates a mushroom biome on the surface. As a result, I make a huge hole, fill it with mushroom seeds, and build a house for the truffle to move into. After waiting for some time, this guy finally moves in the next day and I purchase an auto hammer from him. Using this item, I combine my leftover chroopite bars with glowing mushrooms that I collected beforehand to make shroomite bars. Later on, I use these bars to craft shroomite gear, which is the best armor at this stage of the game. It's also the best looking armor so far in my opinion. It makes me look like the blue Flash when I'm walking around. Just look how cool it is. On day 92, it is finally time to actually beat the golem. I traveled to the temple, blocked off many of the traps inside, collected a bunch of chroopite and used them to make a special type of bullet that chases down enemies before setting up campfires, a heart lantern, as well as honey checkpoints from buckets that I collected earlier for additional healing. The fight itself was surprisingly easy and simple. All I had to do was jump around in order to avoid his attacks. The only issues I ran into was when the golem had considerably lower health and its head decided to separate from its body and fire additional shots. This made the boss much more difficult to dodge, but at the end, I got it done. A lot of day 93 was spent killing dungeon monsters because all of them have a small chance of turning into dungeon spirit after death. If you didn't know, dungeon spirits drop ecoplasms, which are an important crafting material required for ghost swings. Next, it is time to beat the lunatic cultist, the final boss before the Moon Lord. At first, I considered using the Eventude or Tsunami, but they are too difficult to obtain, and considering we don't have much time left, I decided to stick to my Mega Shark instead. According to a YouTuber I just watched, the best way to beat the lunatic cultist is by using a cosmic car key, which is essentially just a rideable UFO. In order to obtain this, I need to go all the way up to space and wait for a probe to find me. Luckily, I found one almost instantly. For the most part, this invasion is the same as any other, but what we're looking for is the big UFO that has about a 16% chance of dropping the cosmic car key. After some waiting, this mini-boss finally decided to spawn. It wasn't too difficult to handle as I took cover while it shot bullets and missiles and flew over the UFO when its laser beams came out. The fight pattern was pretty easy to learn and play around. Anyways, near the end of the invasion, the final saucer spawned. The last few ones that spawned didn't drop what I wanted, so hopefully this UFO does. I used the same strategy as always, and as luck would have it, I actually got what I needed. Like, wow. For the first time in forever, I didn't have to slave away dozens upon dozens of hours to get something that is completely dependent on chance. Day 94, I collected a whole lot of chlorophyte in order to prepare for the lunatic cultist. My plan was simple: circle around the boss to dodge his attacks and just pause the game in order to identify the real cultist. If I accidentally hit one of the fake ones, which unlike the real one do not have any eyeballs, then dragon spawns and the fight is pretty much over with. The cultist even my 5-year-old self can deal with, but that dragon is a real pain in the butt. After mindlessly shooting and dodging the attacks as well as hitting the real one to make the others disappear, I managed to beat this guy first try. I told you I would get better. Anyways, defeating the lunatic cultist, to my horror, spawned the Nebula Pillar Ride Fellow. At the time, I had no idea this was supposed to happen, so I freaked the frick out. Turns out that after each time you beat this guy, 4 celestial pillars spawn and each of them are protected by different unique looking creatures. Each one also drops different fragments that can be used to make a whole heap of weapons as well as the celestial sigil, which summons the Moon Lord. Anyways, after killing about 20 enemies, I panicked and died. The very next day, I set out to beat the remaining pillars, with the first one being the solar pillar. This one probably had the coolest looking enemies such as the Dracanian, Dragomore Rider, and the Selenian. I don't want to bore you, therefore we'll just skip through most of the mindless fighting. It was a very tedious process that included a lot of dying, but I was eventually able to take out 100 enemies and then the pillar itself. Afterwards, it was time to handle the Vortex pillar. This one is protected by enemies such as the Storm Divers and the Vortexian. Same thing happened here. I killed 100 of them to make the force field go down and then destroyed the pillar itself. Day 96, it was time for the Stardust pillar. This one is surrounded by enemies such as the Star Cell, Stargazer, and Twinkle Popper. Using my trusty Mega Shark, I annihilated 100 of them before dying a million times. Now that the force field is down, it's time to handle business. I kept shooting the pillar while dodging attacks from all over the place until it was finally dead and buried. Same thing happened to the Nebula pillar when I returned. Immediately afterwards, a message appeared in the chat that said, "The impending doom approaches." I had absolutely no idea what that meant, so I did not pay too much attention. Unfortunately for me, the Moon Lord spawned not too long afterwards. Freaking stupid. Needless to say, this was really not how I expected my first Moon Lord fight to start. I mean, I'm using a Mega Shark for God's sake, the same freaking weapon I used against Skeletron Prime. Now that I think about it, it's crazy how many bosses this weapon was useful against. It definitely isn't suitable for the Moon Lord though. As you can expect, I tried my best by running and flying around all over the place, but his attacks were just too difficult to dodge and my weapon was too freaking slow. Day 97, I used the ancient manipulator dropped from the lunatic cultist to craft a vortex beater. Apparently this is the best ranged weapon to use against Moon Lord. It's very strange to call it the vortex beater instead of blaster. I guess they just didn't want it to sound cliche or something. Anyways, after scrolling through multiple tutorials explaining the Moon Lord fight, I found most of them to be overly complicated. If you have made it this far, then you probably know by now that my brain is too small to process such advanced instructions. Therefore, I just kept scrolling until I found this video made by a villain that makes the fight super simple. I mean, his technique is just perfect for my peanut-sized brain, so shout out to him and remind me to put his link in the description if I forget. Anyways, this strategy requires armor that can only be bought from the Tavern Keeper using a type of currency obtained from the Dungeon Defenders 2 crossover event. Day 98, I put down this pedestal and used a crystal to start the crossover event. This summons two portals on both sides of the screen, which monsters use to try and kill me. Anyways, it was a very difficult fight, but after spending quite a while just mindlessly grinding this event, I managed to get about 120 Defender medals. Using these medals, I bought a great square helmet as well as Valhalla pants and chainmail from the Tavern Keeper. What makes this armor particularly useful against the Moon Lord is its healing ability, as it allows me to heal up constantly and not have to worry about dodging attacks as much, which I'm terrible at by the way. Apparently Solar Eruption and Daybreak works best with this setup, which really sucks because I literally just made this gun and didn't even get to use it properly. Anyways, day 99, I realized that in order to beat the Moon Lord, I'll probably need Iron Skin and Regen Potions, both of which are made using Day Blooms. I've searched for them in my world before, but for whatever reason, no matter how hard I try, they just don't spawn. As a result, I'm forced to spend some of my precious time making a huge farm with grass blocks. I built all the way up and just repeated the same design on each layer until it reached a suitable size. I also used grass seeds purchased from the dryer to speed up this process. Eventually, after getting some Daybloom seeds from my farm, I made all the potions that I needed. By the way, the Iron Skin potion increases my overall defense by 8, if you were wondering. Anyways, using the Cosmic Karki, I managed to hit him for quite a while with my zealous Solar Eruption. Honestly, I can't tell if this guy is starving or just shredded. I mean, he kind of looks malnourished and super fit at the same time. As you can see right here, I don't have to worry as much about dodging attacks as I would have to otherwise due to the armor that I have on. Eventually, I managed to take out the eye on the right side of the screen, which pops out and starts shooting at me instantly. It even throws these weird balls at my face. That hasn't happened to me since my uncle in 3rd grade. Anyways, I eventually end up stuck in my own farm and I decided to use the magic mirror to get away. This doesn't end up well as the dude literally teleports to my butt cheeks and slams me out of existence. I know this video is supposed to be finished by day 100, but frankly I don't give a damn. I spent way too long on this game to publish an incomplete video, so just deal with it. From day 101 to 120, I just kept dying to the Moon Lord again and again and again. It mostly took this long due to how tedious it is to spawn in the Moon Lord. I mean, I have to beat the lunatic cultists and destroy the 4 pillars again and again and again until we have enough fragments to craft more celestial sigils. The following day, I woke up from a good dream and hopped on Terraria immediately. I feel really good about today, so hopefully y'all are not left disappointed again. I get prepared by drinking my Iron Skin and Regen Potions and summon the Moon Lord. This time the fight starts on the complete left side of the map because it gives me more space to move around. Anyways, I stand on top of this dude's greasy beard and then use my Solar Eruption to do significant damage to the right eye on his palm. Anyways, due to the amount of practice I have had over the past 20 days, I was able to dodge much more of the attacks thrown at me than ever before. I'm so happy that I chose this strategy because using wings would honestly be far too difficult for me. As I gradually managed to take out this eye, we moved on to the one in the middle. According to the wiki, this one has the most health. I tried my best to stay inside Moon Lord's palm because it's the safest spot, but I guess I'm just too slow for that. Anyways, Moon Lord repeated the same amount of attacks at me, most of which I managed to dodge. Eventually, the middle eye was dealt with as well. Now we have to move on to the final eye. At this point, I realized that this dude's brain is literally wide open. How I didn't notice this before, I have no idea. And oh yeah, I forgot to mention, We crafted super potions using some of the fragments as well. These potions were very useful and I probably would not have made it this far without them. At this point I thought that the fight was over, but surprise surprise, we have to destroy the dude's core as well. I was completely and utterly caught off guard by this but managed to regain my composure and continue swinging my sword. You may have noticed that I never really used the Daybreak. Well, that's because my stupid brain forgot that it was in my hotbar. Anyways, as we got closer and closer to finishing this game, my paranoia started to get the best of me. I kept thinking about the worst possible situations ever. Like, what if my electricity shuts down as I'm about to take Moonlord down? I almost psyched myself out, but fortunately I was too close to the end to lose. This was my longest video yet and I had so much fun making it. Terraria is such a good game and I wish I had played it earlier. Feel free to leave me suggestions for the next video. Like and subscribe to show your support, and yeah, I guess that's it. Thank you for watching.